So I'm going to pass the torch over to Mary, who will introduce our next speaker.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Artist, and thank you, Adrian. That was very informative. I'd first like to thank Kelly and Bob Duval, our regional directors, for hosting and providing the NFPA information, but also providing the platform, the Zoom platform for us. We really appreciate it. New England Special, we have 2 regional directors from the NFPA, and I'll let Kelly go. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome from myself and from our State Fire Marshal in New Hampshire, Sean Toomey. So it is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Jeannie Williams. She's the co-founder of the Jeffrey Lee Williams Foundation. We had met Jeannie, or at least found out about Jeannie through Chris Halschultz, who was the Jenkins Foundation. And they have, sadly, something in common. Jeannie herself is a victim of carbon monoxide poisoning. She's also the mother of Jeffrey Lee Williams, who the foundation is named after. The Jeffrey Lee Williams Foundation was formed after a tragic event that occurred in a hotel where Jeannie and her son, Jeffrey Lee, a vibrant 11-year-old little boy, were staying. Jeannie was poisoned by carbon monoxide, and sadly, Jeffrey Lee lost his life to the carbon monoxide poisoning. The Jeffrey Lee Foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 organization with a singular mission to help prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And I'd like to introduce Jeannie to the platform now.
Thank you. I guess everybody can hear me okay. I didn't know if I tested my speaker good. Okay. Thank you again for the introduction. Thank you, Mary, for inviting, including me in this opportunity to be a part of this summit. It's been a little while since I've shared our story, so if you allow me just to kind of read what I have. But I'll share some highlights of the foundation as well. But yes, on April 15th, 2013, Daryl and Shirley Jenkins, it's the Jenkins Foundation she mentioned, from Longview, Washington. They were found deceased in the Best Western Hotel in Boone, North Carolina. Their deaths at the time were labeled health-related issues. Almost 7 weeks later, on June 7th, Jeffrey and I settled into the same room for an overnight visit. Jeffrey took a quick shower and then settled on the bed. Then I went into the bathroom to take off my contacts and get ready for the evening. But then I started to have an upset stomach and not feel well, so I closed the door to use the bathroom. I estimate that we were in the room less than an hour before I started feeling sick. The next day around noon, we were discovered in the room. Jeffrey had passed away and I was unconscious on the bathroom floor. A faulty water heater for the indoor pool was the source of the CO. A simple CO alarm in the room or an always-on CO monitor on the first responder's medic bag would have alerted to the high levels of CO in the hotel. And while I was recovering from my injuries, my in-laws started the process to form a foundation in hopes of something like this never happening. As funds are raised, CO alarms and always-on monitors are donated to fire departments and EMS agencies across the state. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I'm in South Carolina. But up to 2019, we had donated over 4,000 CO alarms and 315 of the portable or the always-on CO monitors. We also gave away 20 Massimo RAD 57 to our York County EMS agency here. Then starting in 2019, we received a very large donation and we set up a partnership with the Office of the Fire Marshal for South Carolina. And from then till just this past quarter, we've donated 2,641 CO alarms and another 239 always-on monitors. And so that was a process where the departments across the state would just apply for do an application requesting the what they needed for their departments. And basically I order the equipment and it gets sent to the Columbia office, and then they take care of distributing it to the agencies, the departments across the state. So that's been a huge, huge blessing as a way to get the equipment, donated across the state. Because it's just little old me and trying to deliver 2,000 CO alarms across the state would be rather tricky. So I'm grateful for that. One thing I do mention that the Jenkins Foundation and with Krish has been huge in all her efforts that she has done, also regarding building code information, and it's above my understanding, but she has basically learned how to read building codes and how to make changes toward that as in regard to carbon monoxide alarms, not just new buildings, but also pre-existing, and then also about as far as the placement of where the CO alarm should be in the hotels. So we did have a testimony time for that. And one thing that I thought was interesting is I think there's some that believe or that feel or just aren't well, that they think if you're exposed to CO that you're going to have enough mindset or thought to be able to get out into a space to get fresh air, that you'll be able to do something for yourself. But I'm an example of that's not the case. I was so disoriented because the levels were so high that I was so disoriented. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought I had an upset stomach and then passed out and was unconscious for 12 hours. And so I had no way of helping myself. So the CO alarm example of having the CO alarm in the room itself would have been a different story. It's encouraging to see all that NFPA has done with their materials. That's very, very helpful, and that's very encouraging about that. I'm very short and sweet talk on that, but I'm welcome to take any questions, or if somebody else on the panel has other questions that I could answer to help get the message out, I'll be glad to take those questions.
So Jeannie, this is Kelly, and thank you for sharing your story. It's always a pleasure. I've met you several times, and I just wanted to tell you that your story and the Jenkins story has always had an impact for first responders doing a better job. And that is, we are raising awareness as we do CO workshops. I'm in Texas right now. I talked to them about CO yesterday, about this very thing, why it's so important to have, for inspectors, to have CO monitors on their belts. And, we had an incident in North Carolina right after our summit in South Carolina that you were at. And I wanted to share that those inspectors had on CO monitors on their belt and walked into a Cracker Barrel. And so there were people sickened from a fireplace there. But I just wanted to tell you that the work you're doing and the bravery you have in telling your story does not go without, helping us to be reinvigorated to do the work we're doing. So I just wanted you to know, because I know some days are harder than others with the work you're doing, that we have not given up on this, and we have a lot more to do. But thank you for being willing to share your story.
I just wanted, I'm Deb Samaha, and I just wanted to introduce our next speaker, Neil Zipser, who has a lot of information to share today about CO incidences and initiatives. What do we know about carbon monoxide? He is from the Knox company. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Deborah. And thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be here today. And Jeannie, like everybody said, thanks for sharing your story. You bring everything kind of home to explain why we're all on this phone today. So I know a lot of you folks out there know a lot about carbon monoxide, but what I'm going to do is give a refresher on the basics of CO. explain why there's a lack of understanding about what a carbon monoxide alarm is communicating, why I believe CO incidents will increase going forward. Going to talk about a new solution from Knox, and I'm also going to talk about, at least for the fire departments out there and nonprofits, aid in obtaining grant funding to get more CO alarms. So as we know, the key traits of carbon monoxide: you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, and therefore it's often referred to as a silent killer. A lot of folks in the fire industry are guilty of confusing CO with CO2. They're very different gases, and it's important as in the fire service not to confuse the community about it, as well as confusing the media about it. The main difference is CO2 can be detected by smell and is typically not as dangerous as carbon monoxide. Here's I'm not a chemist or anything like that, but this short video kind of explains what CO does to your body and how it starves your body of oxygen.
In the winter, we fight the cold by turning up the heat. We're often focused on the risk of being too cold, but we also need to consider the risk of how we're warming up. When you're burning anything like gasoline or kerosene, wood, coal, or propane for heat, carbon monoxide poisoning can pose a serious risk. Part of what makes it so risky is that CO, that's the chemical formula, is odorless and colorless. CO can give you some very severe side effects at very small concentrations. Being exposed to about 400 parts per million, that's about 0.04% of the air around you, can give you a headache and nausea. That sounds bad, but it's not too bad. Bump that up to 800 parts per million, and in 45 minutes, you've got the headache, the nausea, and you're dizzy. 15 minutes later, you could be unconscious. Now, what makes CO so dangerous? It's a molecular monkey wrench in our breathing process. Now, every cell in our body needs oxygen. This requires that O2 be transported through the body. Cells take it up, and then the cells have to use it. CO messes with all of these processes. First, let's talk O2 transport. The protein hemoglobin is tasked with binding O2 and shuttling it around. Now, O2 is a good passenger. It holds on tight, but lets go when the time is right. The same can't be said for carbon monoxide. It holds on much tighter than O2, about 200 times tighter. CO is also a bad guest, overstaying its welcome. CO's extra sticky nature means that O2 can't bind to hemoglobin and oxygen can't get to where it's needed. Want to stay safe from carbon monoxide poisoning? The CDC recommends the following. Have your heating system, water heater, and other gas, oil, or coal-burning appliances serviced by a qualified technician every year. Install a battery-operated or battery backup CO detector in your home and replace the battery twice a year. Don't use a generator, charcoal grill, camp stove, or other gasoline or charcoal burning device inside your home, your basement, your garage, or even a window near any of these. Don't burn anything in the stove or fireplace that isn't vented. Follow these tips, and we can stay safe from CO poisoning and warm this winter. Thanks to CAS for sponsoring this video. And hey.
So she did a much better job of explaining carbon monoxide than I ever could do. So hopefully you found that informative. So detection is key. The only way to detect carbon monoxide is with a CO alarm or detector. And Kelly likes to explain to me that, or likes when I explain that there are differences between alarms and detectors. Out of curiosity, is somebody not muted right now? We can mute. Getting a little feedback. Okay. So an alarm is basically a single station unit that detects the CO and then alarms. A detector does detect the CO, but then sends a message to a central unit to send off a alarm. So you'd find detectors in schools, hotels, etc. Alarms you'd find in homes. However, for the sake of communicating with the public, they usually call them detectors. It's okay if we call them detectors. As an industry, we should know the difference. So it's very important to note a CO alarm does not replace the need to have a smoke alarm and vice versa. You need both still. And we're going to talk later, I think, today about how statistics regarding CO are so poor. They haven't changed, I don't think, in about 10 years. And I did find a old CPSC survey statistic that showed only 42% of U.S. households actually have a working CO alarm. So let's talk a little bit about placement and replacement of CO alarms. Ideally, they should be placed on every level of the home, outside of every bedroom, and any level with a fuel burning appliance. Now, we get asked all the time in the fire service where they should be mounted. Smoke alarm is important to be on or near the ceiling because smoke rises. Carbon monoxide is about the same weight as air, so it really doesn't matter if it's on the ceiling, lower, or anything like that. What we recommend is follow the manufacturer's instructions. We also get asked all the time how long CO alarms last. In the past, 20, 30 years ago, they were from 5 years to 7 years. Around 2012, most of the new CO alarms now last 10 years. The sensor lasts 10 years. Again, follow the manufacturer's instructions on replacement. And like smoke alarms, CO alarms should be tested once a month. So I'm going to play this short clip of a recent incident in New Hampshire. I'm going to play several clips today, and each one has a little lesson with it. So I'll play this quick one, and you can tell me at the end what the lesson is.
Breaking overnight, a man found dead and a woman unresponsive inside a New Hampshire home.
Nicole Jacobs is live in Litchfield this morning with the breaking details for us. Nicole.
Chris and Kate, police believe they are investigating right now a carbon monoxide tragedy. We want to get you to some video right now. What we're told is that authorities were called to this home around 6 o'clock yesterday evening for a welfare check. And when they entered, they found a woman unresponsive and a man dead. They also say inside the home, fatal levels of carbon monoxide. It's unclear at this point the exact source of that carbon monoxide leak. That is still under investigation. We are told an autopsy is scheduled for that man today to determine his exact cause of death, but certainly a tragedy here that continues to be under investigation. We're live in Litchfield, New Hampshire. Nicole Jacobs, WBZ This Morning.
Okay, so what did that media clip miss? I can't hear you out there. I wish we were live so you could tell me. But no mention of the CO alarm being present. They also didn't even mention what causes carbon monoxide. So this is a missed opportunity to educate. As fire service, not only do we have to educate the community, we have to educate the media. And it's really important because the media does probably as good or better job. They reach a lot more people than a fire department ever can. So missed opportunity to educate there. And just last week, there was another incident. This is from Massachusetts. Hopefully there's some folks in Massachusetts on the call. But they did a much better job here at the fire department of working with the media. Let me know what you think.
More than 150,000 people who lost power during the nor'easter are still waiting for the lights to come back on. And 10 people who were using generators were taken to the hospital overnight for carbon monoxide poisoning. WBZ's Anna Myler is in Brockton to show us some important safety steps.
Firefighters responded to this house in Brockton after a child called 911. They found this generator running inside and 5 people with carbon monoxide poisoning. When crews arrived at this home on Menlo Street around 11 o'clock last night, they found dangerously high levels of carbon monoxide and a woman going in and out of consciousness. Fire officials are praising a child for calling for help.
Now this child, who was young, under 10, was looking at the parent and saying, "What's going on with my parent?" Pretty amazing, pretty heroic.
3 adults and 2 children were transported to hospitals for carbon monoxide poisoning. The levels inside the house were over 1,000 parts per million.
We start to get concerned over 35 parts per million. 1,000 parts per million is quite drastic.
The Brockton fire chief says they've had about 20 calls related to carbon monoxide since Wednesday's nor'easter that knocked out power to 500,000 people in Massachusetts. Many are relying on generators while they wait for their power to come back. And there have been problems all over. Generators sparked fires in both Bridgewater and Duxbury. And in Hanson, 5 people were transported to hospitals in 2 separate incidents this morning for carbon monoxide poisoning.
It's very scary. It's very scary. The danger during the storm is tremendous. I think after that, it can be just as dangerous, if not more dangerous.
Fire officials are reminding everyone to never use a generator indoors, not even in a garage. Set it up outside, pointing away from doors, windows, and vents. And make sure you have CO alarms that are working.
These are motors that run on fossil fuels. When fossil fuels break down, they create carbon monoxide, and that's a big danger.
Both Eversource and National Grid say they hope to have most power restored by tomorrow. In Brockton,
So I thought that was a much better job of educating people out there. And to the fire departments on this call, you don't need a incident in your jurisdiction to promote on social media. Use a clip like this, share it on your local social media just to get everybody ready for potential carbon monoxide issues around you. And by the way, he was talking about 35 parts per million, not pots per million, like pots and pans, parts per million. Thought you Northeast guys would understand that, but there might not be everybody from Northeast. So what happens when an alarm does sound? When the CO alarm sounds, get out immediately and then call 911. The other option is when low levels of CO are detected, you can open windows, seek fresh air, schedule the appliance repair and inspection. Now, it sounds very easy to know that, but unfortunately, the alarm doesn't tell people to get out immediately and then call 911. Plus, you've got the chirps and the beeps. A lot of people don't know the difference. So it's just very basic education out there. When you hear that CO alarm, get out first, then call 911. We've talked about causes of CO. What's interesting is where you go around the country, you're going to have generally different causes. Down in the South, when they get the hurricanes coming through and lose power, it's almost always caused by the generators running in the home. When you get up in the Northeast, we're going to be seeing a lot of CO incidents in the next month or two because people are turning on their heat. Well, they probably turned it on already from what I hear. It's pretty cold up there right now. But once they turn on that heat for the first time or use that fireplace for the first time, the fireplace might be clogged. You might have a hole that's occurred in the furnace. So unfortunately, Northeast, this is going to be peak CO season in the next few weeks. Who's most likely to get sick from CO? Obviously, those that have the weaker immunity systems, infants, the elderly, pregnant women, people with chronic heart disease. However, we're going to talk about this a couple of times. CO does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're low income, high income, old, young, male, female, you name it. It could happen to anybody out there. And unlike smoke or fires, a lot of times you see the same type of fires taking down the same type of homes. Older homes with no smoke alarms. CO doesn't happen that way. It could happen anywhere. The key thing is, and we've talked about this a little bit, is as CO progresses, there are warning signs, and early detection is critical. You will get the headache, the dizziness, the shortness of breath, the nausea. It's just important that we just don't jump to conclusions that this is the flu or COVID nowadays, and steps are taken. So I'm going to share this media clip, which, but we'll talk about it afterward.
The silent horror, a family of 4 and their 3 pets all dying in their Ohio home from carbon monoxide. And now we learn someone called from the home beforehand saying they were not feeling well. Authorities say the mother and father and their 2 children were found dead. And at first, when they arrived, the levels were so high, they could not get an accurate reading. Again tonight, ABC's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, new details into the tragic discovery of this family of 4 and their 3 dogs found dead inside this large Ohio home. Officials believe carbon monoxide is to blame. Thursday afternoon, a relative called police when they couldn't reach the family, telling them they had been complaining of feeling sick. So police went to check on the family and saw someone unconscious. They went into the home but smelled something suspicious. First responders finding incredibly toxic levels of carbon monoxide.
We did not find any carbon monoxide detectors within the residence.
What's more, CO is colorless and odorless, and symptoms mimic the flu.
That's why we stress the importance of having carbon monoxide detectors in your home.
Everyday appliances can produce carbon monoxide. Dryers, water heaters, gas stoves, and ovens, just about anything that can produce heat.
And Gio with us live again tonight. I know, Gio, investigators are still trying to figure out what caused those deadly levels of carbon monoxide, but sadly, they did not have detectors, and authorities are reminding everyone tonight, as you just pointed out, there are a number of things in the home can create carbon monoxide.
That's right, David. Gas appliances in particular, you want to make sure that those are vented properly. And you also want to make sure that your heating systems are properly inspected every single year by a professional. And of course, get that CO detector. That is the most important thing.
Gio Benitez again tonight.
So were those people old? Not really. Were there any babies in the home? No. Was that an old house? That was a very nice, newer house. Was there snow on the ground? Did they still have power? No snow, they had power. So again, CO could happen anytime to anyone. And there were warning signs there. And they actually did call and didn't get that diagnosed the right way. So again, that was unfortunately a tragic case that could have been prevented. So when should an alarm sound? UL 2034, which is the standard for CO alarms. Any CO alarm sold in the US must meet UL 2034. Any residential CO alarm requires alarms to sound at the following levels: 70 parts per million, you see 1 to 4 hours, etc. Wouldn't it be great if you could get an alarm to respond faster than that, or earlier than that, I should say? And the other thing is, even when the alarms sound, do people know what to do and recognize them? So we did a survey across the US with 3 sounds, and I'm going to play them for you right now. We'll do this by the honor system, taking guesses what it is, but here's the first sound. Okay, for those of you who guess smoke alarms with the temporal 3 pattern, 3 beeps, you got it correct. Here's number 2. For those of you who guessed a microwave oven, you get the prize on that too. We'll give you a half a point if you guessed the truck backing up. Finally, here's the last sound. And hopefully you figured out that's a carbon monoxide alarm. Difference between carbon monoxide alarm and smoke alarm, the 3 beeps versus the 4 beeps. Us in the fire service probably know this, hopefully know this, but I bet you a lot of your neighbors don't. So what the survey showed was less than half the people who took the survey got the CO alarm right, only 47%. And we only gave them 3 choices. So really they could have taken a guess and got it right. We also gave the test to Spanish-speaking Americans, and the number was only 34%. So basically, and you see on the last one, consumers can't tell the difference between a microwave buzzer or smoke or CO alarm. So obviously more education is needed. Hats off to the NFPA that recognized this and made their Fire Prevention Week theme this year, learning the sounds of fire safety. And they still have a lot of information up on their website, firepreventionweek.org. And although Fire Prevention Week is over, it does not mean our education on sounds should end. This should be an ongoing initiative. So we also gave the survey to the fire service, and surprisingly and disappointingly, only 49% recognized the CO alarm. 85% did recognize the smoke alarm, so that number did increase. And I guess the fire service can be proud that more than half did recognize the microwave out there. It is disappointing more than half recognize the microwave than the or more recognized microwave than CO alarm. So before we educate the communities, we have to educate ourselves, and you're taking the first step, hopefully, by being on this call, so thank you. We talked about CO doesn't discriminate, can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime, and a good example is this unfortunate incident that happened almost a year ago, a firefighting couple in Colorado. It was a combination department. They were both volunteers. About 2 weeks before the incident happened, he got promoted to be a full-time paid firefighter. She was still a volunteer, and they passed away in their home with a carbon monoxide leak. What's even more is her uncle was the chief of the fire department. And, you know, we all call ourselves brothers and sisters. This was truly a family incident. And again, if it could happen to firefighters, it could happen to anybody. Okay. Do you think carbon monoxide incidents moving into the future will decrease, increase, or stay about the same? Hopefully you're all taking guesses. I'm going to give several reasons why I believe they're going to increase. Number one, our laws fall short out there. Only 47 to 50 states have some type of CO alarm law. However, that's basically for new homes only. Those states that do require them in existing homes, it's usually only certain homes, such as a couple states do it on the sale of the home. They have to be upgraded. Other states are when a major renovation is being performed on the home and the electrical system has to be brought up to code. So not a lot of existing homes are required to have CO alarms out there. Only 13 states require CO detection in hotels, and most states, or many states, don't require CO detection in schools. And it boggles my mind that, you know, parents will send their kids out to let me shut off my phone here a second. We'll send them away from home thinking that they're going to be as safe or even safer in schools. And that's not the case when it comes to smoke or CO. Texas, which is one of the states that don't have any laws out there, they had numerous people, I believe it's 18 people die in their Snowmageddon, Iceageddon back in February this year when everybody lost power. 18 died of carbon monoxide. They had a chance to pass a law to require CO alarms in homes, and that did not pass. So I don't know what it takes to get some of these states to move. The more the fire department talks up, though, the more they will listen, hopefully. So here is another clip I want to show you.
We begin with breaking news tonight. A disturbing discovery inside a cabin in Maine. 4 people from Massachusetts are found dead, and police say they were there for days. Good evening. I'm Kate Merrill. Thanks for joining us tonight. That cabin is in Byron, Maine. That's about 90 miles north of Portland, near the New Hampshire border. Some of the victims were from Mansfield, Massachusetts. Our Bill Shields is live there tonight. Bill?
Well, 3 of them, including a brother and sister. This is really a sad story. These 4 young people go up to that cabin. They start a generator, but that generator's in the basement. They never moved it out, and apparently they died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
I drove by 5 times this week, and I didn't stop because, why would you?
Neighbors at the Coos Canyon campground never suspected anything was wrong at the Wakeland cabin. Tuesday, the 4 young people showed up and apparently started up a generator that was in the basement. They never moved it outside.
When they first got there Tuesday night, they started the generator up to put their things in the refrigerator. And sometimes during the evening, they all retired to bed. And sometime either Tuesday or early Wednesday morning, we seem to think that they may have been overcome by carbon monoxide.
22-year-old Brooke Wakeland, her 18-year-old brother Matt died, along with 2 friends, 23-year-old Keith Norris and 22-year-old Deanna Powers of Mansfield. The Wakeland's father found their bodies on Friday. Neighbors here at the campground have known the family for years.
All of our kids have known each other for 7 years and grown up together. So it's very hard.
And the medical examiner has not ruled officially on the cause of death yet, but there was no signs of trauma to the body or no signs of violence in the cabin. Reporting live from Mansfield.
So the reason why I showed that is, that was in a campground. It sounds like it was a cabin. It might have been a rental. It was hard to figure out. But what it comes down to is, do you know the laws in your state? I tried to do a little research on Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. I knew there'd be some other states represented on this call, so I didn't want to go deep into it. But know the laws in your state for new homes, existing homes, multifamily homes, hotels, schools, rental properties. What else can you do in your role? Can you come up with an ordinance? Can you does it have to be through legislation? Can you talk to your local representative? There's so much more that can be done. And really, CO safety has to get to the point where smoke alarm safety is right now. Second reason is we all want more efficient homes. We want the homes in the summertime to be cooler, keep the heat out, right? In the wintertime, keep the heat in. So what's happening? Our homes are better sealed than ever before. Most people have those new windows right now, right? So the unintended consequence, though, is that when the air can't escape, any of the carbon monoxide that's in the air with it can't escape either. So you could have a backdrafting effect where the exhaust that should be leaving the home actually comes right back into it. Is it a high priority for the fire service? Don't take this the wrong way. The fire service has so many things they're trying to promote out there and communicate. Knox deals with a lot of fire marshals out there. When you say CO to them, they think a certificate of occupancy. It's not carbon monoxide. So you've got all these different groups out there. You've got all these different messages. It's hard to prioritize where CO should be. There's no quick little, slogan like stop, drop, and roll, or stay low and go, or keep an eye on what you fry. And I could keep going on and on. And there's even confusion a lot of times between smoke and CO alarms that we talked about before with the fire service industry, where they should be mounted, when they should be replaced. So I guess my best recommendation is, you got all this information being thrown at you. Kelly talked about the EMAC, or the best reference sets. I keep mine right next to me on my desk here. You guys should do the same and go to that whenever you're thinking about messaging. Demographic changes. Seniors are the population's increasing. The growth of the Hispanic community is increasing. These are two at-risk community demographics out there. So the more growth you have in those, the more challenging the communication is. Talked a little bit about COVID. The symptoms are very similar, so you could get confused what you have. And I don't think anybody nowadays, if pre-COVID people were mistaking, CO with the flu, it's going to be even worse now because people get COVID and the flu mixed up. So the bigger thing, though, is you've got more people working from home. You've got more children being schooled from home. That means if there are low levels of CO out there, they're going to be exposed to them more often. I think Adrian talked a little bit about you go outside, you start feeling better. Well, if you're not going outside as much, you've got that lower level of CO hitting you. So another issue we got to be thinking about. And here's one. How about technology you never even thought about? About 80% of new vehicles in 2021 have these keyless ignitions. Now, those are the ones I'm sure you don't use a key. You push the button to start it, push the button to stop it. Unfortunately, a lot of people forget to turn these off to stop. The newer cars, they are so much quieter than they used to be. And some actually stop, when you come to a stop, but the engine's still running. Again, bad statistics out there, but in 2018, I saw a statistic, haven't seen it since, that 37 people have died due to leaving their vehicles on in the garage by mistake because of this technology. And I know that number's got to be way higher now because more cars out there have this technology. So here's a little clip that talks a little bit more about it.
Keyless ignitions are convenient and easy, but does this new technology come with deadly consequences? Now CBS 2 with a warning about keyless danger.
If I get to my car and unlocks the doors, you don't have to dig into your pockets, especially in the wintertime.
Keyless cars. The technology allows drivers like Stephen Richter to open his car door and fire up the engine with a simple push of a button. But there's just one problem with this popular feature. Hundreds of people a year, like George Gonzalez, say they're forgetting to push the button a second time to turn the car off.
One night I was in a rush. I stepped out of the vehicle and I forgot to shut. I thought it was off, and the next morning my car was still running.
For Gonzalez, who parked on the street, it cost him a tank of gas. But for others, the mistake has cost them their lives. Martis Alex is an attorney.
The rest of the clip has an attorney talking. We don't have to go there, but I think you get the idea that yet it's another thing that we have to remember when communicating to the community out there. Another reason technology has lagged, the first CO alarm patent was 1927. I think before that, the first CO alarm was the canary in the coal mine. The coal miners would put the canary in the coal mine. If it kept chirping, it meant it was safe to go in. If the canary stopped chirping, it was too dangerous to go in. But, you look at the cell phones, the iPhones today. Go back to 82 was the first cell phone introduced. It was the huge box phone, then went to bag phone, and the big Miami Vice phones, on and on. But only 25 years later, the result was the first Apple iPhone. And we know how good the iPhones are today, and the fact that, children know how to use them better than any of us on this call do. But that's 25 years. Think about what's happened with carbon monoxide alarm technology. Yeah, they might have gotten smaller. They've got the 10-year CO batteries and the sensor lasts a little longer. But basically, they're still not communicating to us effectively. So at a minimum, these are things that we believe all CO alarms should have. Digital display, sealed 10-year battery that lasts the life of the alarm. If it's a plug-in model, it should have a battery backup that also lasts 10 years, an end-of-life warning, and should be certified by a third party, such as UL or ETL. Those are the main third-party national respected laboratories that test labs to the UL 2034 standard. Also a quick, be careful of what's available online, specifically Amazon. A few years back, we caught them selling non-listed alarms out there. NASFM, the National Association of State Fire Marshals, got proactive. They got Amazon to take them down. And recently, we have seen a couple pop back up. So again, just be careful what people are buying online in your community. And I talk about, the 10-year battery. And the reason why that's so important is we know people don't replace them. So here's a quick example of how that led to an incident.
United States with breaking news. 3 people are dead from carbon monoxide poisoning in New Hampshire.
Let's get you right to News Center 5's JT Monahan with the latest. And Heather, the victims are 3 adults. The 2 men and a woman were found unresponsive at 5 Center Circle in Plastow, New Hampshire at 11:30 this morning after the fire department was called for a well-being check. A 4th person was found alive and was taken to Mass General Hospital. Fire officials said a carbon monoxide detector was inside the home, but the batteries had been removed. The poisonous gas came from the home's propane-fired heating system. Heather? And we have more breaking.
So again, another tragedy that probably could have been prevented. So I'm going to talk about something we're very excited about, a new product from Knox, the Knox CO Alarm. Here are some major benefits to it. It provides an early warning. So at 30 parts per million, when the detector, I call it a detector, when the alarm detects low level of carbon monoxide, it will eventually give you a warning. It is not a low-level alarm. I'll get to that in a little bit. It also provides easy-to-understand directions and alerts. How does it do that? Both through audible alerts and visual alerts. We'll get to that a little bit too. And it also gives actionable steps to take. So not only does it tell you what's going on, it tells you what to do. It also does this in English and Spanish, so it's a solution for the Hispanic community. And we've been told by many fire departments out there when they're trying to do home safety visits and canvassing, it's a lot harder to get in the homes of the Hispanic community. They don't understand the uniform you might be wearing. They might think you're law enforcement. They may not be able to speak English very well, so they're hesitant about letting people in. So we think this alarm will help fire departments do that. So here's a little better look at the alarm. You can see that there's a warning zone up above the message zone. The warning zone provides the warnings, high levels of CO danger, low level COs, hush mode activated, etc. Actions below to tell you what to do: call 911, exit, get rid of the alarm, or ventilate the home. You've got the scrolling display and an audible alert. So I'm going to play an example of what one of the alerts sound like here.
Dangerous level of carbon monoxide detected. Evacuate immediately. Dial 911. Press status button to repeat this message.
So again, you heard the danger and then you heard what to do. Here's another example.
Your unit has come to the end of its usable life. Replace unit immediately. Unit will not respond to carbon monoxide. Press status button to repeat this message.
And one thing I really dig about the alarm, I've got one right next to me here, is you could hit it at any time and it will tell you how much life is left on it. So hopefully you could hear this.
There are no alerts. You can look forward to being protected by this Knox Safety alarm for 9 years and 11 months.
Presione el botón de estatus para cambiar las alertas de inglés a español.
And by one press of the button, you could change it all to Spanish.
Acaba de cambiar el idioma de inglés.
Press it again.
You have just changed
Goes all back to English. Very easy to program and work with.
El botón de estatus
So again,
para volver a español.
Okay. We're very excited about it. And some key points. This alarm complies with UL 2034, the only standard for residential CO alarms. This is not a low-level CO monitor. It's not something you clip on and leave the house with and all that. Low-level CO monitors are not covered under UL 2034. It does provide, though, a low-level alert to hopefully reduce the chance of more serious CO emergencies which may occur down the road. And that's really the goal. Reduce those more serious ones later and educate the person what to do. So those are obviously benefits to your homeowners, the benefits of the fire service. The alarm does the education for you. We talked about all the different education messages you have to do, and CO is just not that easy to explain. Early detection hopefully will eliminate emergency calls. The end of life warnings will reduce unnecessary calls. I know the folks in Massachusetts, if you're on the call, in 2012, I believe was the alarms, the CO alarm ordinance throughout the state hit the 7 years. And what was happening were all these alarms at one time were going into end-of-life chirps. And again, people don't understand the difference between the chirp and the beep. They're calling the fire departments. Fire departments are making all these calls in the middle of the night to find out that it was just a dead alarm, basically, that had to be replaced. And it helps create awareness in the Hispanic community. So let's talk a little bit about the Hispanic community. You might think we don't have a lot of Hispanics in Vermont or Maine yet. But here's a map that I found that shows the increase in population percentage-wise growth by state. And you could kind of see the Northeast there. Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. You're all seeing between 21 to about 50% increases in Hispanic population, and this is between 2010 and 19. So you may not have a lot of Hispanics there now, but they're increasing in terms of population growth. All right, how do you get these alarms from Knox? They're available to all Walmarts nationwide. They'll soon be available on knox.com with discounted fire department pricing and discounts to nonprofits. We've got a relationship with a group called firegrantshelp.com. This is a free service to fire departments. It's about 25 other maybe manufacturers on there too, like Motorola and Polaris for 4x4s, you name it. And they've got a huge grant of state, federal, foundation grants. A lot of us are guilty of only focusing on FEMA grants, right? The SAFER grants, AFG grants, and FP&S grants. They've got a huge database of others with money just sitting there to help you identify what grants make sense for you if you want CO alarms. And then they provide assistance with your narrative to strengthen your grant request. You go back, write the request, give it back to them. They'll proofread it, make final suggestions, and you've got a much better chance of getting that grant. So please utilize that service. Next steps for you, go to that site, look for Knox. Well, unfortunately, our CO alarms right now are under secure lock boxes because that's how they know of Knox, but you'll find the CO alarms under that or just find the Knox logo. Firegrantshelp.com doubles your chance of being rewarded grant. Actually, the very first time you apply for an FPS grant, a fire prevention safety grant, you have about a 16% chance of getting that grant. You'll learn from it. You'll make a better grant. Your chance goes up to 44% using these guys. I'll share, this deck with Mike and Mary, and they can send it out to whoever. But we provide 2 pages of grant tips here. I just wanted to mention a few of them. Number one, our partnerships are critical. If you can get local churches, local chamber of commerce, just other groups who support your program, let's say the local ARP, you have a much better chance of getting that grant. Again, focus on not only FEMA, but other grants out there. The Firehouse sub-grants, I believe, closed November 10th. So you've got about a week left to get your grants in for that. Regional effectiveness. If you do mutual aid and you're jumping from one jurisdiction to another, and you just want, when we say community risk reduction, let's call it county community risk reduction. FEMA does look favorably when multiple agencies and departments work together. Another one is look at the big picture. So again, CO alarms should be part of your overall community risk reduction program, should be part of your home fire safety visits. So make sure that when you apply, this is just not a new CO alarm initiative. This is really enforcing and enhancing your current programs out there. Some important links here. Again, it will be on the slides if you ask for them. But the first thing to do for for any FEMA grant really is to sign up on their site. You need some, numbers. You basically need some government numbers and things like that, your DUNS number. You also can sign up for email alerts from them because the problem with FEMA is that every year they change deadlines and openings. You can't say, hey, it's April 1st, it's time to get an FP&S grant, and they change it all the time. So make sure you sign up for those alerts. Again, some potential grants out there, more than FEMA. These are all linkable that you'll be able to have. And instead of giving a summary, I'm going to give your homework assignment, I guess. Get to know the laws in your state. Again, new homes, existing homes, hotels, schools, etc. Get to know the laws and figure out what else you can do to strengthen those requirements. Make CO one of your top priorities. Again, Fire Prevention Week has ended, but your education on sound should continue. This is going to be an issue that, much like everything else, cooking fires and everything else, it goes on and on. Educate the media. We talked about how important the media is to get to a wide range of people quickly. The more they know, the better. You don't even need a CO incident to do it. You've got the temperature going down right now in the Northeast. When you're done with this call your local reporter, get them some information. A real important one here, become engaged with National Carbon Monoxide Awareness Association. Adrian talked a little bit about it. It's ncoaa.us. Sharon McNabb, who's the executive director and an amazing resource, is on this call, and I believe she spoke to you last year. They've got a new white paper on their site that you could download that talks about, the more of the dangers and what should be done about low-level CO. And finally, take advantage of this grants program we have at firegrantshelp.com. Additionally, by the way, we have grant templates ready to go where you just can use our wording, take out, enter your department here, put your department in, enter some local information, and it'll get the ball rolling a little faster for you. I realize you don't have professional grant writers, not all of you. So anyway, that's your homework. Here's my contact information. I'm best available by email. Knox.com is where you can find more about the CO alarms.